Imagine a small village nestled in the northeastern corner of Tibet, 1935. It's the birth of a child, Lama Thondup, who could have easily slipped into the rhythm of an ordinary life in a rural Tibetan community. But this was no ordinary child, and his story was about to intertwine with the destiny of an entire people. At the tender age of 2, a group of monks, guided by dreams and visions, journeyed to this village. They were in search of the reincarnation of the 13th Dalai Lama, Tibet's spiritual and political leader. Upon arrival, they presented several objects that had belonged to the previous Dalai Lama, some originals and some replicas. This young boy, Lama Thondup, was able to identify the objects that belonged to the previous Dalai Lama, and as he did so, joyfully declared, "It's mine, it's mine." This was an unmistakable sign that he was the reincarnation of the 13th Dalai Lama. At just 4 years old, Lama Thondup left his family and village behind to journey to Lhasa, the heart of Tibetan spirituality. 2 years later, he was enthroned as the 14th Dalai Lama, taking the name Tenzin Gyatso. From that moment onward, his life became a blend of extraordinary learning and heavy responsibility. His education began immediately, encompassing a rigorous curriculum in Tibetan art, Buddhist philosophy, and languages, all while undergoing intense meditation training. He was not only learning spiritual wisdom, but was also being prepared for his future role as Tibet's political leader. For a boy so young, the pressure was immense. He was mastering complex philosophical teachings and spiritual practices, while his peers were just beginning their early education. The burden of leadership came quickly. At the age of 15, just a teenager, Tenzin Gyatso assumed full political power as Tibet's head of state, a role fraught with challenges. In 1950, when he was only 15 years old, China's forces began to encroach upon Tibet, and the young Dalai Lama found himself thrust into the political spotlight, attempting to navigate a delicate balance between Tibetan autonomy and Chinese pressure. The weight of these responsibilities was a constant in his young life, but Tenzin Gyatso's true test was yet to come. By 1959, Tibet was facing an unbearable level of Chinese military control, and the country's political landscape was on the brink of collapse. Under mounting pressure, Tenzin Gyatso, at just 23 years old, made the decision to flee. Disguised as a soldier, he embarked on a harrowing journey across the treacherous Himalayas, narrowly escaping capture. Over the course of 14 days, he and his companions braved the cold, dangerous terrain, risking their lives in the hopes of finding safety in India. This was more than an escape. It marked the beginning of a new chapter, not just in the Dalai Lama's life, but in the history of Tibet. When he arrived in India, Tenzin Gyatso found refuge in Dharamsala, a hill station in northern India. There, he established a Tibetan government in exile, which would serve as a beacon for Tibetans around the world. Tens of thousands of Tibetans followed him into exile, creating a diaspora that helped preserve Tibetan culture, language, and traditions outside of Tibet. As a political leader in exile, the Dalai Lama's efforts to raise global awareness about the plight of Tibetans and Tibet itself began to take shape. Beyond his political advocacy, the Dalai Lama's spiritual message began to reach far beyond the confines of Tibet. He traveled extensively, meeting with political leaders, scientists, and religious figures. In 1989, his work in promoting peace, human rights, and the Tibetan cause earned him the Nobel Peace Prize. But it wasn't just his political activism that made the Dalai Lama an international figure. It was his message of compassion, nonviolence, and universal love. His words resonated with people across the world, regardless of their background or beliefs. The Dalai Lama didn't just represent Tibetan Buddhism, he became a spiritual bridge between the East and West. He took the ancient teachings of Buddhism and made them accessible to the modern world. He talked about compassion not just as a philosophical concept, but as a practical tool for navigating life's challenges. He spoke of mindfulness and meditation as a means to improve mental health and emotional well-being, long before these concepts became mainstream in Western wellness culture. His discussions with neuroscientists, in particular, helped bring scientific validation to many of the benefits of meditation and mindfulness practices, sparking the modern mindfulness movement. While his message was rooted in Buddhist teachings, the Dalai Lama emphasized the universality of compassion, mindfulness, and interconnectedness, drawing on these values to engage in interfaith dialogue. He sought to build bridges between different religious traditions, advocating for mutual respect and understanding. Through these efforts, he brought together people of various faiths, highlighting shared values and the importance of peace and harmony. One of his most significant contributions was the unification of different Buddhist traditions. The Dalai Lama worked tirelessly to foster dialogue and cooperation between Buddhist schools that had, for centuries, operated in isolation from one another. This unprecedented unity between Buddhist traditions has led to collective efforts in education, environmental protection, and peace building. Tibetan Buddhism, once confined to the Himalayas, is now practiced across the globe, and its message of compassion has influenced countless individuals and communities. His influence extended beyond religion. The Dalai Lama became a symbol of hope and resilience for those fighting for human rights, justice, and peace. His advocacy for Tibet's autonomy continues, but his message has broadened. He has become a global figure who speaks out on behalf of oppressed people everywhere. Yet, his teachings are always rooted in compassion, reminding us that our ultimate purpose in life is to help others, and if we can't help, at least we should refrain from causing harm. Despite the incredible impact he has had, the Dalai Lama has faced criticism, particularly regarding his political role. Some have questioned his political activism, while others have speculated about the future of the Dalai Lama institution, particularly as his current incarnation nears the end of his life. Will the institution of the Dalai Lama continue, or will it cease to exist after Tenzin Gyatso's passing? These questions remain unanswered, but one thing is clear: his influence will endure. His teachings on compassion, nonviolence, and the potential for human connection have permanently shaped global consciousness. Whether through his spiritual insights or his advocacy for peace, the Dalai Lama's life is a testament to the transformative power of compassion. He has not only changed the lives of millions of Tibetans, but has inspired individuals across the world to lead with kindness, to think beyond themselves, and to find a deeper connection with the world around them. The Dalai Lama's journey, marked by adversity, resilience, and boundless compassion, stands as a powerful example of what one person, driven by love and wisdom, can do to change the world. His message is simple: we are all interconnected, and through compassion and mindfulness, we can create a world where peace and understanding flourish.